So let's talk about high containing foods with oxalates. If you can give us a priority list, because I think, when I look at this and just having, you tell people to eat real food, they're eating so many processed foods, and we've got to look at, oxalates in all this processed packaged foods as well, how important that is. But then you tell them to eat real food, but then there's a list that they can't eat real foods of. And so, I've got a bunch of health coaches and we do corporate work. And the more complicated we make it, the harder it is. So, it's so tricky, to try and advise people on diet. And it's such a unique, bespoke thing, I think. And people need a lot of body awareness. They can use data, they can just use self-awareness, because it's really a minefield out there. But give us your priority list with regards to oxalate containing foods.
Well, the priority is based on what you've been eating or what you were fed as a child. What are the foods in your diet? And unfortunately, a lot of the foods that are so popular now are pretty nouveau foods that really weren't staples in the human diet, but are now. Things like chard, spinach, almonds, cashews, peanuts, even potatoes are a pretty new food to the human race. And we've only been using them as human food for about 400 years. Peanuts for the last not even 200 years. These are new foods, but they're standard. You grow up on peanuts, whole wheat bread, the bran is high. Potatoes are offered in the schools and throughout childhood and beyond. Now here in the US, we offer people either fries, chips, or mashed or baked with almost every meal. Sweet potatoes have become the better potato, but they're not technically a potato, but they're very high in oxalates.
Very
Now, a lot
high.
of people,
Very
yeah,
high in oxalates. So your
sweet
list, sorry,
potatoes.
I'm gonna push you. I've listened to a lot of podcasts and I think your book is incredible, but we need a priority. I know you're saying it's in the diet, but are we saying like spinach is the number one? Because if you're having a spinach juice, or spinach is lower than potato, then lower than sweet potato, then we can go
Right.
through the nuts. I think this is very, very important, because I think, there are a lot of people suffering with this.
From a numbers perspective, you want to start with the beet greens, the chard, and the spinach.
Just
They're
cut
off
it.
the charts.
Yeah, off the charts.
Don't need
Deep
those.
greens. Yeah.
Don't mess around with star fruit. That's famously deadly. It's so high in oxalate. So star fruit in the fruit department. And, with the grains and pseudo grains in that department, the worst ones are quinoa, buckwheat, teff. Those are the terrible ones that a lot of gluten-free people are doing. And then in the seeds, like get rid of the chia and the hemp seeds. They're the worst ones there. And then in the nuts, it's the almonds are top of the list. Terrible. Cashews, second runner up, with then peanuts.
Sure. That is quite a list. And so when you say potatoes and sweet potatoes, you said the top three: Swiss chard, spinach, and beet greens. And then the next group, is it potatoes, or is it, sweet
Well, like I
potatoes?
was saying, is it's not always about the numbers. It's about the ones that you've made friends with personally. So
Okay.
it's about looking at your diet and what are the top 5 in your diet that you're using routinely. Those are the ones. Just don't pick up a new bad one. Don't trade in your sweet potatoes for beets, because that's not a big improvement. Right. So
Yeah.
it's being aware of that whole list, but usually it's just a handful. For me, it was the sweet potatoes I was eating every day as a starchy staple, and some chard once or twice a week. That was enough to do me in.